Good evening, everyone. This is JTQ9 of SSX1, and this is my very first ever video with War. So I figured, you know what, everyone else is doing it, so when in Rome, here we go. First off, I got my Penny versus Jubilee fight in lane 9, fight 1. Pretty standard fight here. Penny, first thing what you want to do is you want to get to an S1. You want to try to just throw it when they're just about to reach or just slightly over their bar power. So that way you can have them pick up your Spidey charges. And then what you're going to do is then build to an S2 and then fire it off. And in most cases, it will kill them, assuming they're not incinerate immune. So with this fight, again, pretty straightforward. Just looking for some parries. There's the S2. It's a heal block, and then the final hit does the incinerate damage that will knock them off. So then our next fight, we're heading over to Black Widow Dark Origin. And again, this is a very standard fight. The one difference with this one, as you can see, is that there's a feat of indestructible. So whenever I get to 1 bar of power, I won't do any damage to them. With this one, same sort of strategy. Build to your S1. Launch it as soon as they're close to a bar of power. And in this case, when Black Widow shoots it, obviously an evade charge will pop up, and you don't want to hit into her, otherwise she will evade and shock you. In this case, I'm not too concerned because Penny is basically shock immune here. And except for one slight mistake where I try to get an extra hit in when she's got her evade up, which happened right there. But besides that, this fight was pretty straightforward. I'll likely build to an S2 here, launch it, and then it will be fight is over. Penny, oh, no, not this one. Sorry, my mistake. This one here, because I had used that evade or the auto block to save me a bit. Or I believe it was maybe the power shield. Because of that, I used up some of the kind of spider charges. And anyway, in this case, as you can see, I ended with 100% health, and there's nothing really wrong with that. Next up, we have Doom on kinetic transference, on, what was I going to say, with the crumbling armor of the Footloose. Pretty standard fight, put 2 Reed pre-fights on to help suppression and petrify to ensure that he does not gain additional power just from striking me, or at least not as much. This strategy here is basically parry heavy, but my first one I completely forgot that he's also shock immune, so the typical shock would not appear, but then after that I made some adjustments. And in this case, you just want to constantly control the power. When he gets to 2 bars, I'll throw an S1 to drain him down a little bit, and from here get that stagger back up, and then usually with a lot of light attacks just to constantly drain a little bit of power to then build to my S3. And then once you're in the S3, you can typically do a Doom cycle. It's just when you have the Reed pre-fights on, it makes it a little more complicated because you don't gain back the same amount of power. So again, I didn't quite get him back to an S3 after draining him. And because of that, I kept him above 2 bars of power. Fortunately, he didn't throw his S2. I was able to adjust, throw another S1, gain some power, and then a really big S2, do some really big incinerate damage, and then this fight is basically over at this point. For the next fight, it was a little bit tougher because initially when I was supposed to take this fight, going to the I-bomb here on our kind of pre-list for fights of what I was supposed to take, we had written I-Hulk by accident. So not realizing that if I-bomb is to throw an S1, I would get a petrify, and therefore he would be unblockable for the remainder of the fight because he gives me 2 debuffs when he also throws a special. In this case, elected to go with a power boost to try to get to build to a power SP1 quicker. Unfortunately here I mistimed it, hit one extra hit, which threw the S2 first, so now kind of caught scrambling. I don't want him to throw the SP1, as I mentioned. I don't want him to be unblockable the whole fight, so I put him to an SP2. But as you're going to see, the damage he does, even though Penny has the block up, or the shield up, it still does a good amount of damage, so I can't take too many of those. So at this point, I'm going to try the cycle again, push him to an SP1, get my charges up every time they cross a bar of power. And then from there, I'm going to, well, bait probably another SP2 before I get to my SP2. And again, at that point, the fight will most likely be over. But again, I dodged back just to try to get my shield up to give me that extra protection. And then from this point, get the SP2. I'm going to launch it here. The O block and the incinerates pop up. And then from here, it's just watch him melt away. So that was one of the fights that I was most concerned about. And that's where I did take 6 fights. The next 2 are pretty straightforward. I ended up taking this Airwalker, which with Doom is very, very easy. You essentially just need to play straight up with him, since Doom is armor break immune. Likely not get any of the debuffs on him. And what I elected to do was just block the specials because I have an R4 Doom and he's a tank. So at this point, it's a very straightforward, easy fight. There's nothing really to it. You just got to monitor his power. But with Doom with his SP1, we're able to control it very easily. Usually I like to throw the SP1 after he hits 2 bars of power, but I figure in this case I could attack with a bunch of lights to gain some power back myself. But as you can see, he did virtually no damage throwing that SP1 into my block, so I don't need to take any chances and do anything dumb. I think eventually here I end up building to an SP3 and then basically ending him with that, while doing a little mini Doom cycle. So again, nothing much to this fight. Very easy matchup for Doom. And especially when you're sitting with an R4, every fight just seems to be that much easier. And then that was it. And then heading into my final fight for this war, we have Kingpin on Mighty Charge, and I forget what else was it. Mighty Charge and the Ebb and Flow Intercept. So on this one here, my strategy going into this was basically don't let Kingpin get to an SP2 and just play him safe. I mean, no need to rush an intercept. I know with my R4 Doom, I'm going to be doing enough damage where, except for when I take some shots to the face right away, that my Doom's going to do enough damage if I just play safe and not do anything dumb. So the strategy here is basically just bait out the SP2. When I notice he doesn't shrug the shock, I end up laying a heavy just for that extra damage, especially since I have the read combo, so the heavy does a little bit more, creates an armor break, which never sticks, obviously, because it's Kingpin. And then on this one, you just have to pay attention to the timer, just to make sure you're not running into him when he does an unstoppable, when he turns unstoppable on his chance there. So I think there was one minor slip up where, anyway, I think it'll be coming after the SP3 on, well, anyways, we'll get to that when we get there. But on this fight here, I decided not to go with the proper Doom cycle just to be safe and really keep him under the SP1, under the SP2, and keep him to an SP1. And then I think at one point I start to get backed up a bit, but again, I'm not really concerned. Doom is pretty much a tank, and as long as I'm paying attention to everything that's going on, there's nothing really to be scared of with this fight. I got a nice intercept there, which dropped the protection. Threw a special to keep my aura up in case for whatever reason I end up taking a special to the face. At least it'll block the last hit. And then, yeah, with this one here, it was just a little bit longer a fight. Not as long as some of them. So this one here, I for some reason dashed in. I was hoping to get an intercept, not really paying attention to the clock, but that was the first and only time I took my eye off his timer with the unstoppable, well, the possible unstoppable prompt. So here I got a little backed up, but again, not worried, as heavy is really easy to evade. And now I'm just going to probably set up an intercept, maybe one more special. Set up an intercept, either a 3-hit combo or 4-hit combo intercept, and then drop the SP3, and that should finish him off. If I ended up doing that, I don't really remember, but I guess we'll find out shortly. Oh no, I landed an intercept there, and then through the SP3, and that was the end of my war. So overall, I was pretty happy with my 6 fights, a couple slip-ups here and there, but overall, as an alliance group, we did really well. Congrats to BG1 on their donut for this one. And as you're about to see, we ended up winning this war by a very large margin, and which is always nice. So on to the next, one step closer to having Masters again. Thank you all for watching. Talk to you soon.